My name's Roger Longden, and I'm Managing Director of a consultancy called There Be Giants. We help businesses not just define strategy but execute strategy, which often is the bit that they get left to do by themselves. And that, when you take away that label, is all about performance management. My previous experience and it feels like in a former life a long time ago, I worked in the corporate sector, and I worked my way up from the shop floor right through to senior board level in a large multinational. And I had experience of both the good and the bad in terms of how performance management was done. Often, well, in that instance, it was exclusively on an annual appraisal basis.
Right.
And I was both from a delivering and receiving it always left me really frustrated.
Why was that?
Really frustrated because it just felt like it was first of all being driven by HR as a box ticking exercise. I was really struggling to see how it added value to the business.
Yeah.
What I was being required to appraise people on were objectives set 12 months ago, possibly by myself or maybe by someone else. That just kind of didn't feel fair.
Yeah.
Because often the world had moved on. Yeah, I always had this sense that it was no good for the people and it was no good for the business. What can I do to help businesses crack this particular challenge? And I decided this 3 years ago actually, and it's stuck with me ever since, that I'm on a mission to rid the world of the annual appraisal. I have already succeeded in some organisations and some businesses. I have already succeeded, and they're starting to see the dividends, not just in terms of the results that they're getting, but also in terms of the levels of engagement and the levels of performance from the people. And so it benefits not just the business but also the people.
Yeah.
I think the two are inextricably linked anyway. I think it became so embedded in large organisations that it just became this handle that was cranked round sort of once a year. And yeah, there's a big flurry of activity around the time when the annual appraisals are due, and then it's kind of like, oh, thank God we finished that, right? And then it just gets put aside then for another 11 months until the 12th month when it's all. I don't believe that they have necessarily that they have the time or the knowledge to actually go, actually this might be a better alternative, or understand what their choices are. There's a methodology which was established, like most of these things, over on the west coast of America, Silicon Valley and the like, back in the mid-90s. Intel started, again, this was an evolution of management by objectives, implemented this program called OKRs, right? Objectives and key results. What it does is it shrinks down the time frame, first of all, from 12 months to once a quarter. It also advocates that you raise the discussion of individual objectives to team level on a weekly or a fortnightly basis, which increases, so long as your culture's right.
Yeah.
As long as your culture's right, that opens up the opportunity for collaboration and sharing resources and supporting each other and also becoming aware, because part of those conversations should be about not just reviewing progress, but also how confident are we're going to achieve it. That's your early warning system. You know, if you're a manager and you've got a team that are working hard, but and a few of them might actually fall short, wouldn't you rather know in advance that might happen, so that you can flex resources, make some decisions, than get to the end of that 3-month period and think, oh crumbs, we've missed. The culture's got to be right, because in some organisations that could leave people in quite a vulnerable position, because they may believe that saying I'm not going to hit it could be perceived as a sign of weakness. Right, but if the culture's right, you've got a huge amount of benefits.
Yeah.
So
And people are getting feedback a lot quicker, aren't they?
correct,
Yeah.
correct, which is really important with the generation that's coming into the workplace
Yeah.
now, because they're used to far more instantaneous responses. Okay, those responses might be a lot shorter, but they need that feedback. They have a real appetite for that feedback. It's great to see that there are various different software apps that are out there now that you can sign up to on the internet that facilitate management feedback in a much more agile and responsive way. And I think that's just a reflection of the growing trends within the work. Software and certainly the transformation in software over the past 10 years has made performance management systems a lot more accessible to businesses that previously might not have had the budget for. I mean, you wind the clock back 10, 15 years, and really, if you wanted a performance management system, then you were speaking to the likes of SAP or Oracle and probably spending £1 million upwards on the system. So that's why it was always the preserve of corporates. But now, with the software as a service business model, where you can sign up through the web and access something through your browser for no more than $10 a month, it's just revolutionised.
Yeah.
I've seen how bad systems design can drive really bad behaviours.
Yeah.
I think we're now starting to see examples of how intelligent systems design can actually drive the right behaviours. Ooh, that's a really good question. Really good question. I think there's a few reasons. It's where HR tends to hold tends to hold the power, because managers won't confront it if they don't feel like they've got HR behind them to back them up. I mean, ideally, the managers should have confronted it with the support of HR. I also think that there is just, I think there's a general lack, and I'm not sure if this is a British thing, but I think there's a general lack of confidence in addressing underperformance. I think there's often managers will adopt an ostrich position in the hope that it will improve. So I think for managers in businesses that haven't got a clear definition around how we want you to perform, not just what we want to, but how we want you to perform, I think it makes managing performance a lot more challenging.
So for you, really, performance management isn't just getting the job done.
No.
It's about doing it in line with the organisation's values.
Very much so.
And that needs to be a part of the performance management.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, very much so. Very much so.